Okay, this is it. I told you I was going to give you some information in a video format of our Middle East life, our Middle East story. I had intended on that being through YouTube. I just shared at the end of a video. I was talking about abandoned tent, that video. Why that's not coming in the form of YouTube at the moment. Basically, I had it already edited, except adding in some last minute bits to make it better, and then my app just got rid of all my videos from the editing and just left all of the overlays and text and things, and I have to go back and replace all of those video pieces back in the right way, and that's going to be a lot of work. So you know what, rather than making you wait for that, I'll start telling you some bits and pieces here and now. Might even be a better format anyway, and I can make these into a YouTube video instead. And I can even post pictures here alongside or somewhere thereabouts to show you literally some of our life in the Middle East as we go. So I'm not going to do it all in one session. That would take way too long. I'm actually going to make them really short, little snippets, and I hope you pay attention for the next one and the next one and the next one and hear our way through. And most of all, I hope these aren't just me telling you blah blah blah, here's my life, blah blah, but rather you may never move to the Middle East. You may never be faced with some move like that. Maybe you're in the military and that's something that you do face, various moves throughout the world, but a lot of us may never move outside of our hometown even, or maybe just moving across town or across city, state, whatever, even the country maybe. But all that to say, you can, I hope and pray that through me sharing this with you, you will be able to apply some of this faith over fear that it has taken for us to do things like move to the Middle East and move across the country with kids, all of that, that you can learn from what we've done, what we've lived through, what we've grown through. I don't believe God allowed us to make these kinds of life moves and changes for no reason other than just to do it for ourselves. Believe that it's benefited our family tremendously, our kids especially, but also to help you, to help you grow through feeling that you can do the big, hard things, even if it's not moving across the world, but even if it is. You too can have faith over fear. So, and with that, if you ever want to hook up with me one-to-one and let me give you even more in depth than I can ever go into here in this format, I'd love to sit here in this coaching room that I'm in right now at my little coaching desk and work with you and really download to you a whole bunch of things I've learned through this and many other things over our lifetime. So if you do want that, before I get into the Middle East stuff, I just want to say put coaching as a comment on this video or anywhere, or reach out to me in a message if you'd like, and we can talk about that and see if that might be something I can bring some really cool results to your life like I've been able to experience in mine. So, and learning from things that maybe you won't have to learn the hard way. Some things I've learned the hard way. All right. Now, Middle East, really quickly. I don't want to go deep yet. I'll keep you hanging and let you keep coming back for more because it, again, would take way too long to go too deep all in one time. So, why did we move to the Middle East? Why did that ever come up as even a thought? It was not a thought, I promise you, for a long time. Matter of fact, as a nurse informaticist, I was being recruited on LinkedIn or somewhere, I believe it was LinkedIn, years before we ever moved there by their leading hospital in their country, Sidra, which is where I ended up having all my prenatal care when I lived there and was pregnant at 40 years old with our youngest child, who we birthed there. I birthed there. So, yeah. But at that time, I was like, yeah, right. I mean, yeah, they're going to pay a lot of money and all for us, but I will never move to the Middle East. Are you kidding me? And at the time, we only had one kid, and even that was like, no way. And it's in Qatar, Doha, Qatar. So, yeah, farthest thing from my mind to even entertain that thought very deeply. So, fast forward a bunch of years, and all the things we had for my husband's job when he first, so I graduated nursing school years ago, 23 years ago, in May of 2002. I have to think hard because I got married in May of 2004, but we went on our first date right around the time that I was graduating and having my nursing penning. So anyway, been an RN for 23 years now. So in the beginning of our dating, and then when we got married and all, he was in school still, and he finished his, he graduated with his bachelor's degree in kinesiology, exercise science, when our oldest son, was 6 months old, if I'm correct on dates and all. He was born in August of that year, and then December is when Dad graduated. So he turned around pretty quickly and started interviewing for jobs in the field he wanted to do, which was not anything in our area at the time of Shreveport, Louisiana. Now there's more there, but we've long since left, because at the time it was not that kind of stuff that he wanted to do, which is strength and conditioning. So sports performance is what he got into. His first job that he got hired into was in New Jersey in the winter. And we're both from Louisiana. So that was fun, moving with a kid that was having ear infections and all of that. But we did it. A couple of years later, we moved back to Louisiana, but South Louisiana around New Orleans. We loved it down there, but job-wise, where he was working wasn't panning out. It wasn't open yet. It was trying to get off the ground with a new business, and it wasn't him opening the business. He was one of the employees, one of their only employee. But yet it wasn't panning out quick enough, and I had to take on a second job down there along with my informatics nursing job. I've been a nurse educator in New Jersey, a bedside ICU nurse in lots of places, pediatric and adult, so all of that, trauma, everything. But in New Orleans, I took on a second job as a phone triage nurse, and then ultimately we just had to move back home for a little bit, to just have a job for him in that field that actually was a business off the ground already, not waiting to get off the ground. And he covered both our hometown and Monroe, Louisiana, so a lot of things there. And then in between there, he had a little college job, but it wasn't the greatest thing for his career, so he didn't stay with that. And then we went back down to the New Orleans area with a company that was already off the ground doing the thing that he was doing, sports performance, Athletic Republic, and lived on the North Shore, Louisiana North Shore. And I still had my job from New Orleans all that time. We were gone for a year and a half because of the way they worked things out, because they really wanted to keep me when it was time for us to move back home. So we did that. I worked remotely for a year and a half for them, and then came back. And so we loved where we lived on the North Shore. We loved our community there. We loved our church there. Everything was really nice for us in many, many ways. His job wasn't paying the best for where he should have been at that point in his career, but it was all they could do at that time. So, of course, that wasn't the best, and that's, I guess, what kind of had him antsy for something better that he could provide better for his family, because at the time a lot of the primary income was coming out of my job, which is pretty much how it had been all along. And the only chance we might ever have for him to be the primary breadwinner, or the only breadwinner for some time, came up in a way we never expected. It was a God thing that I never would have ever asked God for. And that would be that one of the connections he made, one of the employees / co-workers he had at that Athletic Republic in Covington, Louisiana, where we had our second child, our only daughter, at 38 years old. Anyway, that's part of the whole Middle East thing too. But that one of the co-workers, had previously worked in Qatar for the Olympic Committee. I believe it was maybe even volleyball Olympics, which my husband was working with a lot of volleyball, high school volleyball athletes at the time there in Covington. And so anyway, he called him because he left to go back to Qatar and work with, I believe it was basketball. What was he working with? Anyways, his friend went back to Qatar though, and took his family with him eventually, but not immediately. At first his family stayed back, so we got to hang out with them still. Anyway, he called him one day and he said, dude, they need somebody here with, it was the volleyball Olympic teams. and even not even sure which form or portion of it would be. So I recommended you. They wanted me to reach out to you. If you would like to do this, you have 1 week to tell them yes or no. 1 week. Oh my goodness. And this was in the summer, and I was pregnant at that time, and I had just started a new job that was local after having worked a year and a half on the road. I could tell you more about that, but I was driving 1,000 miles a week, covering 6 states, multiple, like 15 hospitals that I was in charge of with federal government level meaningful use requirements in their electronic health records, meeting with the CEOs all the way down to the, the housekeeping team. But especially a lot of C-suite meetings that I had to lead one-on-one in their offices, as well as in board meeting type things, and even medical staff. I had to present to medical staff of hospitals about all of this and try to convince them of why they had to do this. So anyways, that said, I got done with that after a year and a half, was pregnant, came back to work in a small hospital in our little town we'd been in for a long time and really liked. Working a small job that I was fine to be small. I wanted to be the peon, for now, for a long time actually, and still new in the job. Hadn't even gotten insurance there yet because it was that new. Then my husband gets this opportunity. School's about to start back for our other one, our only kid at that time. He was 10 years old basically by this time, almost 10, and public school. And all the way up till then he was public and a little bit of private Montessori. And so we had to decide within 1 week, knowing all of those things I just told you. And if he chose to do this, then he would have to leave within 1 month of us deciding to do this. And either we could go with him, not very easy to do in 1 month, and with a pregnant wife at that, with a new job. So anyways, or he could go first, like we often do whenever we make big job changes that require a move. And then after he's there for a little bit and make sure it's worthwhile, gonna be secure-ish, and get some things together and ready for us, then we come along after him. Well, that's the plan, basically, that we decided. This is a God thing that we can't turn down. We can't say what if we turn this down, We kind of have to go with this. It's Olympics, and so why not? This is kind of one of those culmination of your career things for him, if nothing else, of springboard for even more for his career. So very, very surreal. So he did choose to do this. 2 days before he left the country, our son, who was about to start school back, broke his arm. And lots behind that, but he was just, doing some athletic things. And he broke his arm, and it was his writing arm, and school was starting back and all that stuff. So yeah, and I was pregnant, and we were 6 hours from any of our main family. Some of our family was on a one-time-in-a-lifetime trip to Italy that they couldn't even help us if they wanted to. And thankfully my mother was able to come help, and then my mother-in-law was able to shift back and forth between the two of them for a few weeks at a time, coming and staying with me and our son and my pregnant self, and then later when the baby was born, with the baby as well, which is Mayla, our daughter. And so that said, we chose to take the big step of faith and have faith over fear, because that's a lot of fear, y'all. That's a lot of fear. We did it though, and God helped us through that, and it was not easy by any means. And that's just that, why did we go and how did it initially start? There is a lot more to it. Like that first year, I was pregnant for the first several months of that while he was gone. He came back halfway through that first year, and 2 days before her birth, he was there for her birth. Stayed for 1 month, her first month of life, and then had to go back. And then I had to start back work after 6 weeks. I didn't even have enough time or anything and money to be able to stay longer than 6 weeks out of work. So thankfully, like I said, mother-in-law shifted back and forth, helping us with all of that from 6 hours away, putting their lives on hold to come help us. Very grateful. Little young man in school going through all of this. His dad across the world, they played Battleship together. He took one set with him, my husband did, and we had one back home, and they would do it through the iPad, through like FaceTime or Skype. I think it was Skype at the time. They would actually literally play Battleship together from across the world. There's just so much. During that 1 year, we were completely apart, literally a world apart. And even with his new baby girl back home, and his one and only son, his firstborn, and then of course his wife. So quite a bit. Hi Amanda and Jorge. So anyway, that's just a little snippet of how and why did we go to the Middle East. It's for the Olympics, not for my job, for my husband's, and it was a huge faith over fear step for us. So if you will tune in again on our next little episode, I guess you could say, of this, I'll pick up where I left off. I may tell you some more about that year apart while we were in the States and he was overseas. And then, and again, not with the military, not with oil and gas, literally with the Olympic Committee of Qatar, Doha, Qatar, not with America's Olympics either. Very, very different experience, I'll say. So yes, and then I'll tell you some of the beginnings of the kids and I getting ready to move there, because that in itself was a huge process. Huge. So many things. And then our move there, and as we settled there, we were there for 2 years. He was already there a year, so he was there for 3 years. But I'll pick up where I left off at that year apart and go forward from there in our next episode. So tune in again. Thank you for tuning in now. You can go back and watch this from the beginning to hear kind of what was going on before you picked up on this. Talk to you later. Bye. Share it with somebody that might want to hear about it.